I'll go through the advanced guide called Web Components, React Advanced Guide called Web Components. So they're saying React and Web Components are built to solve different problems. Web Components provide strong encapsulation for reusable components, while React provides a declarative library that keeps the DOM in sync with your data. So it looks like they're built to solve two different problems. So if I open Web Component standard itself, so this is a Mozilla Developer Network, a document about web components, and they talk about what makes a web component. They're saying web component consists of these four technologies. It's custom elements. Basically, you can create your own custom tags. HTML templates, Shadow DOM. Shadow DOM is basically you hide it's private data within that element. So it's hidden from external changes. And HTML imports. This is a way to import. I think this HTML imports part of it. Not a lot of browsers are implementing it. They're going with module loaders instead. But custom elements will allow you to create your own tags, and then HTML templates will allow you to create templates which are nothing but what is the word for it? They will stay dormant, and whenever you add it to the DOM is when they become active. And Shadow DOM is nothing but a feature that allows you to hide or not hide, but make sure that the contents inside your element are private, so changes outside of your element will not affect it. That's my understanding of what a web component is. Anyway, so I will move this over like this and leave it on. Maybe it might be needed at a later time, but right now I'll just move it to the right like this. Okay, so that's the web components part of it. They're saying they're here to solve two different problems. Web components provide strong encapsulation for reusable components. With web components, you can use reusable components that will work across frameworks. It will work with React or Angular or anything, or straight HTML. While React provides a declarative library that keeps the DOM in sync with your data. So React provides a declarative library that keeps the DOM in sync with your data. So as your data changes, React will help you deal with changes in the DOM. The two goals are complementary. As a developer, you're free to use React in your web components, or to use web components in React, or both. I don't know how successful this will be, but they're saying you could use React inside a web component or a web component inside React. Most people who use React don't use web components, but you may want to, especially if you're using third-party UI components that are written using web components. They're saying most people don't use web components, but they're saying you're free to use it. Using web components in React. So it looks like if there is a web component called x-search, this is one way you would be using it. I think they have a exclamation. Okay, so exclamation is just part of the string, I guess. But anyway, if you see, this is one way to use it. So this is, I mean, it looks pretty straightforward to me. Everything is lowercase, so I'm guessing React will think it's a native element. Web components often compose an imperative API. For instance, a video web component might expose play and pause functions. To access the imperative APIs of a web component, you will need to use a ref to interact with the DOM node directly. If you are using third-party web components, the best solution is to write a React component that behaves as a wrapper for your web component. So what they're saying is web components expose imperative API like play and pause, like if the video element has play and pause to either play or pause the video. They're saying if you want to access the play or functions, use the ref. Use the ref feature of a React component to get access to the DOM node itself, and then call the play or pause on the DOM node. So events emitted by a web component may not properly propagate to a React render tree. You will need to manually attach event handlers to handle these events within your React components. One common confusion is that web components use class instead of class name. Okay. So there is an example here. They're using so they created a functional component called brick flip box, which is using a component called brick flip box again, and they assigned a class called demo to it. Okay. I don't know what the confusion there is. I mean, a web component typically is like any normal component. So a web component is like any normal native HTML5 element. In normal HTML5 elements, you could use class. So with HTML5 component also, you could do the same thing. So if you want to use React in your web components, then you would do something like, so actually this attached callback, I don't know if it is still the standard V1, if the V1 spec for web component supports it. Anyway, this is too complex a way of using React inside a DOM component. So we'll keep both of them away from each other, at least for now. You just use React as is a better idea than to mess around, to mix these two things up. Unless we end up using a third-party web component, and there is no way we can live without it. Then only we'll end up using React within a web component or a web component within React. Otherwise, we'll keep these two separate. Anyway, that said, that's all they have about web components. And in the next one, we'll talk about higher order components. So I'll stop this video for now, and in the higher order components, in the next video, we'll cover higher order components.